Good evening. I will give a couple minutes so we can allow everyone to enter the room. Good evening and welcome to Metro's I-105 Express Lanes Construction Update Community Meeting. This evening we have Spanish interpretation available. If you'd like to listen to this meeting in Spanish, please click onto the interpretation icon and select your preferred language. I'd like to introduce our interpreter for the evening, Elizabeth Orozco, who will give instructions in Spanish.
Buenas tardes y gracias por acompañarnos a esta reunión. Para aquellas personas que quieran escuchar con una interpretación en español, después de dar estas instrucciones, seré asignada como su intérprete y aparecerá en la parte de abajo el icono de interpretación para que pueda seleccionar su idioma. Le hace clic en el globo terráqueo, seleccione Spanish, que es español, y puede poner a silenciar audio original, que es Mute Original Audio, para no escuchar el inglés en el fondo. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Tonight's meeting is being recorded, and attendees in the audience, your cameras are off and mics are muted. Please note that caption services are available to you using the Zoom feature located at the bottom of your screen. Also, during this meeting, you may submit questions and comments to our project staff via the Q&A icon. We have designated time towards the end of the call to address your submissions. As a reminder, Metro's Code of Conduct states Metro is committed to ensuring that all participants can fairly and clearly share ideas, comments, and concerns about this project. To provide a safe and equitable process, we are asking for your help. During this meeting, please respect the format of the meeting and allow everyone an opportunity to comment. Treat fellow community members, agency representatives, Metro staff, and others with respect, and address all comments to Metro staff and consultants. Currently, we are running the Know Your Rights campaign. All immigrants, regardless of status, are entitled to basic rights and protections under the law. Understanding these rights is the first step toward safety, empowerment, and accessing essential resources. Key support services available: free or low-cost legal services, language accessible assistance, resources for navigating immigration issues, protection from fraud, discrimination, and abuse. For more information, you can go to oia.lacounty.gov. For my final announcement, Tap to Exit is back on the system. This was resumed on Monday, November 17th at our LA Union Station for the B and D lines and at the NoHo station for the B line. We also launched Tap to Exit at the Pomona North Station on the A line. Once again, thank you for attending tonight's community meeting. Now I will pass it over to Ron Macias to review tonight's agenda.
Right. Thank you. Hello, welcome. I'm Ron Macias, Metro Community Relations on the I-105 Express Lanes project, and we thank you for being here today and joining us. We appreciate you taking a moment of your time here to meet with us, to learn about the project, and to receive updates on its current status. We will present on a major transportation capital improvement infrastructure project that is happening in the local area, which is well underway. And joining me today are some members of the project team as we will address any questions you may have regarding the project. We are excited to be delivering this project to the public. The project is a benefit to all motorists traveling on the I-105 freeway, as well as the surrounding community along the corridor, as the project is intended to improve travel times and enhance safety along the freeway, and as well as provide other benefits to the community. And here you see the agenda for today's meeting. We will provide a project overview, which will entail details and also benefits, the benefits rather that the project provides along with the improvements that are being built by the project. We will have a portion of the presentation on Metro Express Lanes operations, which will demonstrate how they generally work. And we'll have a portion of the presentation on the equity assessment process, which is a related component to Metro Express Lanes, whereby a portion of the revenue generated from the overall public's usage of Express Lanes is allocated for various projects in the local communities along the corridor. And then we will segue into a construction update and we'll share with you the details of the work activities along the corridor and share construction timelines as well. And then we'll move into the community labor participation, which involves the efforts undertaken by our contractor on the project in hiring workers for the project from the local community, which is a great worthy endeavor being undertaken by the project. So at this point in time, we will get right into a project overview for the project.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jesse Sanchez, and I'll be providing a brief update on the I-05 Express Lanes project. The project will convert The project will convert existing high occupancy vehicle lanes, or HOV as they're known, into two express lanes in each direction between the I-405 near LAX on the west side and Studebaker Road in Norwalk on the east side, giving drivers more options, better access, and improved connections along the corridor. Currently, segment 1 is under construction, with segments 2 and 3 expected to begin construction sometime in mid-2026. It is important that I emphasize that the project does stay within the existing freeway footprint, meaning that there will be no residential right-of-way impacts. And this project is one of the Measure M projects, which, as some of you may know, was a ballot measure that was approved by LA County voters back in 2016, including voters in the cities and communities in the project area. So the project will help solve several key issues on the I-05. First, it addresses speed degradation in the existing HOV lane that often drops below 45 miles per hour during peak travel times. Under 45 is considered below federal performance standards. With the express lanes, dynamic pricing will help maintain speeds above 45 miles per hour and will improve their flow and reliability. The project will also enhance overall corridor operations, providing more reliable travel times for car pools, van pools, commuters, and transit service to LAX. Importantly, the general purpose lanes will also benefit from this improved traffic flow. We will also be improving highway safety by closing an auxiliary lane gap and reducing stop and go conditions. which will help lower the risk of rear-end collisions. Finally, the project helps reduce freeway overflow onto local streets, shifting the traffic back onto the I-105 and improving livability for residents in the surrounding communities. Current traffic data shows just how heavily congested the I-105 corridor is today. In the westbound lanes during morning peak hours, general purpose lanes take about 36 minutes from end to end, averaging just about 26 miles per hour. And even the HOV lanes, which average only about 32 miles per hour. So again, below that federal performance of 45 miles per hour. Eastbound in the afternoon peak hours, conditions are even worse, with general purpose lanes taking about 65 minutes end to end, averaging about 15 miles per hour, while the HOV lanes average about 19. Because the HOV lanes are consistently falling below 45 miles per hour, they are considered degraded under the federal standards. With the Express Lane project, we expect to reduce general purpose travel times by up to 10%, and the Express Lanes will be designed to maintain speeds above 45 miles per hour for more reliable trips. The I-105 Express Lanes project also brings several important safety benefits. We're adding auxiliary lanes between the I-710 and Long Beach Boulevard, which will make merging smoother and safer. By improving overall traffic flow, the project helps reduce stop and go conditions, which in turn reduces the rear end collisions, which is one of the most common crash types that we see on the I-105. We're also upgrading striping for better visibility at night, helping drivers navigate the corridor more safely. And finally, we'll be adding channelizers in the buffer zones between the express lanes and the general purpose lanes that will help prevent illegal merges and support safer, more predictable traffic movements. So here's a timeline that shows where we are in the life of the project. Environmental certification, what happened back in May 2021. Shortly thereafter, Segment 1 equity assessment study was completed. Just over a year ago, in October of last year, a Segment 1 construction contract was approved. And earlier this year in February, major construction began, which if you look at that yellow bubble, it shows us where we are in the life of the project. Looking ahead to next year, construction on segments 2 and 3 are expected to begin mid-2026. And segment 1 is scheduled to be completed in 2028 ahead of the 2028 Summer Olympics here in Los Angeles. In addition to the express lanes, the project also brings several other community benefits. We'll be adding new sound walls in portions of the freeway where there were none before, and we'll be completing a seismic retrofit of the Alameda Viaduct to improve its overall safety. The project also includes multimodal improvements with funding for upgrades at the Harbor and Avalon Sea Line station for things like lighting, wayfinding, and a state of good repair needs. We'll also be exploring lighting enhancements at the undercrossings where we're widening the bridges in segment 1. And looking forward again, future netto revenue will help fund active transportation, transit, and roadway improvements in the communities along the corridor. And a little bit more on that a little later in the presentation. And lastly, here is this graphic here shows the new lane configuration for the I-105. We're starting from the right of your screen to the left. There will be 2 new express lanes, followed by 3 general purpose lanes. It is important to note that the number of general purpose lanes will not change. So we will maintain the general purpose lanes that are on the freeway now. There will be no reduction in general purpose. Next, we have the auxiliary lane, which again will help improve safety, make merging a lot smoother, and reduce rear-end collisions. And on the far left is the shoulder, providing a space for stopped or disabled vehicles. You'll also notice in between the express lanes and the general purpose lanes, there'll be a 2-foot buffer, which adds an extra layer of safety and separation. Thank you all for your attention today. That concludes my portion of the presentation. I'd now like to introduce Philbert Wong, Senior Director of the ExpressLanes project, who will walk us through the functionality and the benefits of the ExpressLanes. Philbert, floor is yours. Thank you all very much.
Jesse, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I'll just talk briefly about how the express lanes work. You may have used the express lanes on the 10 and the 110, and the 105 will operate in the same manner as the 10 and the 110 express lanes do. You can use the same transponder if you have one. Everything would operate seamlessly. So just like on the 10 and the 110, we have designated locations to enter and exit the express lanes, and in advance of those locations, we have signage telling you when you can enter and exit, and we also have pricing signs that tell you what the toll rate is to travel on the express lanes. If you're a qualified carpool, you travel for toll free, but you do need to have a switchable transponder to travel and receive the carpool discount. There's some non-switchable transponders that are issued by other agencies in Southern California. And so if you use a non-switchable transponder, you will not receive a carpool discount. In addition, if you do not have a transponder, you can use the express lanes, but you'll pay $8 plus whatever the posted toll rate is. We have a variety of discount programs like transit benefits. We have a low-income assistance plan. And so for more information, you can go to metroexpresslanes.net. Next slide, please. I'd like to talk also briefly about an equity assessment that we recently completed. Next slide. And so we prepared an equity assessment for segment 2 and 3 of the project. And the purpose of the equity assessment is to identify and prioritize potential projects that can be funded with toll revenue generated from the express lanes. We often get asked what we do with the revenue and the tolls that people pay to use the express lanes. And so we've developed a plan in cooperation with community-based organizations. We work with 21 CBOs in the corridor to identify this list of projects that we could fund, and it includes active transportation, transit, and roadway projects. We do have the executive summary and project list if you're interested, and I'll put the link in the chat if you're interested in more information. And we also completed a segment 1 equity assessment a little over a year ago, and that document is available on our website, Metro Express Lanes at /105 Express Lanes, if you'd like to take a look at that. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Ron Macias.
Great. Thank you, Philbert. Before I continue, I hope you're not disturbed. We are having a fire alarm drill here at this time at the building where I'm at. So I'm hoping this does not it's not heard by the audience. So please bear with us. But again, thank you, Philbert, for that. I will now speak to an update regarding the upcoming and ongoing construction, rather, as we are well in the middle of the overall construction of the project and in the midst of building of its numerous improvements at virtually all areas of the segment 1 section along the corridor. Throughout this segment of the corridor project is currently performing most of its construction work activities on the shoulder or outer edge or right-hand side of the freeway in order to perform new roadway pavement construction. And this is to accommodate the new express lanes and the overall improvements provided by the project. We are anticipated to be in this existing phase of the project through roughly middle next year, roughly around that time of 2026, middle of 2026, and then we'll move on to another phase of work activities within segment 1 after that point, where most of the work will primarily be performed at the center median of the freeway in the latter stages of the project. And this is to support the installation of express lanes infrastructure within the segment 1 section of the corridor. So in order to perform the construction of new roadway pavement along the shoulder, the project involves other different type of construction and work activities that are necessary to be constructed and done in conjunction and support of new roadway pavement along the corridor. Such activities include the reconstruction of many sound walls that have existed along the I-105 corridor. And also, there are some construction of new sound walls as well in some areas along the corridor. Also, there are many various retaining walls that are being constructed along the corridor as part of this work, in addition to reconstruction related to the various freeway underpasses or bridges, which are, again, being constructed to support new roadway pavement construction along the corridor. So within this segment, you see the number of streets where the underpasses are under construction. 5 of these underpasses of the freeway are within the city of Los Angeles, and there are 2 located, Yukon Avenue and the Dominguez Channel there, in the western area of the project alignment in the city of Inglewood and the city of Hawthorne, which each side or end of the underpass is located in each city respectively, actually. In the later next stages of the project, as stated, we will shift to the center median of the freeway to perform the installation of express lane features, such as some various equipment, sign structures, related pavement markings, and also the reconstruction of barriers at certain locations. And finally, to support the overall construction of the project, some of the landscaping and trees that have been removed to support the actual work activities being constructed along the project corridor had to be removed, and so we will eventually replace and restore the landscaping upon the completion of construction. Now we'll move to a construction schedule. Here you see a rough overview of the timeline of the overall project, which includes the work activities and construction phases within segment 1 of the project, as well as the timeline for segment 2 and 3. As you can see, we are in late 2025 within the phase of the project, performing work activities for roadway pavement construction and other related work in that large blue shaded arrow there, as we eventually will proceed to mid-2026 to another phase of the project, again, where the work will shift to the center of the freeway to install express lane infrastructure and various features. And then in the later phases of the project, within segment 1, you will start to see active activities with work being performed in the segments 2 and 3 area, which is anticipated to begin roughly around mid-2026, while construction continues within segment 1 at that time. Then we'll proceed to the latter part of 2027 as construction continues. The project anticipates testing of the express lanes tolling system at that time, which leads up to 2028. As Jesse stated, the project is anticipated to be completed by the time of the Olympics in 2028, while at the same time segments 2 and 3 will continue on till 2029. So that is the anticipated construction timeline. Now we'll get into some more details regarding some of the actual work activities. The sound walls, as you can see, are being constructed along various segments of the corridor. In order to construct new pavement, roadway pavement, these locations, sound walls, again, that have existed are being reconstructed with the addition of new sound walls that will be constructed. These reconstructed sound walls, most of them are being reconstructed to a taller height than prior to the start of the construction project. We're talking roughly 6 to 8 feet taller as we move the sound walls a little further outward to accommodate the new express lanes. And at some locations, as I stated, there are new sound walls being constructed. As far as a general construction schedule for these sound walls, there's a timeline which that it generally applies to all of these sound wall construction activities along the corridor. It takes roughly a time frame of roughly a little bit more than a year to complete the overall construction of these sound wall locations. We started roughly in spring 2025. Most of the work activities are being performed during the daytime hours. We had to remove the sound wall and then prepare the work site, removing landscaping and trees just at the locations where it was needed to actually perform the work activities, graded the area, started building foundation for the walls. And then we started to reconstruct the sound walls. And that's roughly where we're at this point in time, as we are roughly ending 2025. We intend to continue the reconstruction and building of the sound walls into the next year. Once the sound walls are fully or actually completely constructed, we will continue some work activities to grade the area and perform some excavation to continue the new roadway pavement construction alongside of the sound walls. And a couple of these exhibits that we'll show you is merely just to provide an image of some of these locations and a closer look of the sound wall construction areas. This location is the easterly section of segment 1 of the corridor, where there is a reconstruction of sound walls near Avalon Boulevard on both sides of the freeway, as well as the area just to the west, which is the bottom image there. As you can see, the sound wall, which is depicted in an orange color, is the area where there is actually a new sound wall being constructed as part of this project. And then we'll show the next image on the next slide of just farther to the west in the city of Inglewood and city of Hawthorne. As the upper image is near the Crenshaw on-ramp in Yukon, we have a sound wall that's being reconstructed there. And also just immediately to the west, the bottom image depicts the sound wall under reconstruction in the city of Hawthorne. And as stated, the construction of these sound walls are performed in conjunction with the new roadway pavement construction. Then we'll move on to bridge undercrossings. As mentioned, we have work activities involving various underpasses and bridges to support new roadway construction at various locations. We mentioned those locations in the previous slide, but they are depicted here in these images as construction is ongoing. We started roughly spring of 2025. If you can back up just one moment. We started in spring of 2025. We anticipate construction in mid to late 2026. And the work activities includes drilled pile installation, barrier overhang demolition, some excavation and foundation work, and deck installation as well. And we recently installed false work, which are bridge support structures at many of those locations. Most of the work activities are being conducted during the daytime hours, with most work being conducted behind K-rail. But there are some instances where some nighttime work activities are necessary to perform certain work activities for those structures in the city of LA. Those 5 structures, there is the need to close the street fully in order to perform some particular work activities during the nighttime hours in order to safely perform the work, whereas work will be performed directly above the street. So there is a need to close the street fully in certain instances in order to allow certain work activities to advance, as these streets are only being allowed to be closed during the nighttime hours. So we'll move on to retaining wall construction. As mentioned, we have various retaining walls under construction at various locations along the freeway. As part of this new roadway pavement construction, these walls are primarily built at locations where the project improvements are being constructed next to a hillside along the interior of the freeway corridor. They are being installed right up against the hillside in essence to basically stabilize, hold back, or retain the slope hillside. Next slide, please. Yeah. That's the retaining wall construction area. There you see work crews in the photo, building the actual retaining wall along the hillside. And there you see an image of the retaining walls under construction. This is a typical representation of work activities involving retaining wall construction. You see the equipment in the center of the image with traffic on one side and the equipment right in the middle there. And the excavator is digging into the hillside there in order to construct the actual retaining wall. This, you see a dotted line where the retaining wall is being built. That's the first dotted line. The second dotted line here is the shoring that's being installed into the retaining wall, which is to hold back and stabilize the hillside to allow a safe workspace for the work crews to actually perform the work. And then the next slide will just show some of the typical areas, locations along the freeway where these retaining walls are being constructed. This is a segment along the freeway where many retaining walls are being constructed between Western Avenue to Crenshaw. As you can see on the bottom image there, that's where most of the retaining walls are under construction. The top image there is this is a typical area where you see work will be constructed into the hillside along the interior of the freeway corridor to build this new roadway pavement construction. And then as you see, the freeway there is at a lower level, lower elevation from the top of the hillside. Where that top of the hillside is actually where the community resides. So this is roughly a typical location where retaining walls are being constructed throughout the project. And this is occurring throughout the corridor. As stated, this area of the image on the bottom is where Crenshaw, between Crenshaw and Western, where most of the retaining walls are under construction. And then we'll move on to some new set of work activities that are ongoing, but particularly these work activities are going to start actually on the actual street, local city streets of LA on the western end of the alignment. We have some work activities being performed immediately adjacent to the actual freeway corridor. And these are work activities related to the electrical work to support the new tolling system of the future toll lanes. And then that image on the bottom just shows the various work locations where this work will be performed on the western end of the corridor, again, which is adjacent to the I-105 corridor. And this is from basically Nash Street to West Street. I'm sorry, Inglewood Avenue, I'm sorry, from west of Nash to Inglewood Avenue. Mostly this will be daytime work, as you can see in the image, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with lane closures, some ramp closures in order to perform this work. We are anticipating to start this street level work activities in December of 2025 with an approximate duration of roughly 6 months for the totality of all of these work activities. We anticipate a duration of 3 weeks to be anticipated for each of these street locations or phases of work. However, the work along Imperial Highway is anticipated to last roughly 5 to 6 weeks due to the larger work zone area, as you can see here on the western end of this map where the work locations are depicted. There's a great deal of work here from Nash all the way up into aviation, essentially, to perform a great deal of work activities. That's why it will take a little bit longer at this location. And work crews intend to work around and jump around from location to location to work at various work locations simultaneously. Now we'll move into traffic control. The project continues since the beginning to implement traffic control as part of and in support of facilitating the building of these improvements. There is a need to implement traffic control in order to perform its construction and in order to build its improvements. We have ongoing work as stated on the outer edges of the freeway. We have been intermittently implementing closures of ramps and on-ramps. Lane closures along the freeway is occurring on a regular basis in order to perform this work, and there's been some intermittent connector closures as well. Please note there are some work activities that we do have to perform at night because mostly, uh, generally, closures or traffic control on the freeway is usually allowed during the daytime hours in most instances. So therefore, certain work activities have to be performed at night as well. And we have ongoing electrical work as well to support the new tolling system on the southbound I-10 freeway, actually. And we do implement some freeway lane closures on that corridor as well as some intermittent ramp closures, as well as connector closures. And we do have some upcoming directional closures that we intend to implement along the freeway. You may recall during the early phases of the project, we implemented a series of closures in one direction of the freeway to support lane restriping and to establish work zone along the corridor in order to uh, maintain the existing traffic lanes along the freeway during construction. So this was conducted in advance of major construction for the project. So in this instance, at some point in the future, we will need to remove some overhead signs that cross the span of the freeway. And so we will need to implement some directional closures. Again, that's one direction being closed at night during the late night hours to facilitate these work activities. The full details are not available just yet. These will be implemented roughly between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Again, late night hours. We'll have traffic detours in place, and we will have advanced signage in place to alert motorists as well, and we'll certainly alert the public when the start of these directional closures are set to take place. And from this point on, we will move on to the presentation on the community labor participation provided by the project. We'll bring up Glenn Polk, representing the contractor for the project, Flatiron Myers joint venture, to discuss their efforts in hiring workers for the project from the local community.
Thank you, Ron. Good evening. My name is Glenn Polk. I'm the Segment 1 project manager for the Flatiron Myers joint venture. I'm really pleased to be here to speak about our community development efforts on the project thus far. This is a subject that's really near and dear to my heart. I grew up here in LA and actually started on a metro project that was as an intern through a metro program that was geared towards community involvement, and that's been a springboard for a very rewarding career thus far. I've worked in construction for over 25 years, so community involvement is very, very important to me and very, very important to the companies. What we've been doing thus far, our team is currently partnering with apprenticeship readiness programs in the area. And what we believe is that these partnerships provide an on-ramp to a career in the building trades. We're also doing a lot to hire local workers. We've got journeymen, we've got apprentices, different grades of apprentice. We also believe that these efforts give us a strong workforce in the area and also a strong workforce for us to take to other projects. So here we just went out and spoke to Entre Nous, which is like I said, it's a local apprenticeship readiness program, and got very good feedback, very good feedback. So we're very excited about the opportunity to work in the community. I'm very excited about working in the community. This is home for me, like I said. So to date, we've hired we hired 92 apprentices. We've locally sponsored uh, 3 apprentices, and we're actually looking to bring on more as our project ramps up here and we get into the segment 2, 3 areas. If you can move on to the next slide, please. Um, so as I said before, these MC3 apprenticeship readiness programs, we've partnered with 2 Youth Build and Entre Um, uh, the photo here is one of us out at Entre talking to the students, and like I said, we got great feedback. I was very happy with the feedback and the amount of interest that we got from the young adults that were there. And again, I can't say enough about the importance that we place on community development and hiring from the community and hopefully giving back. You know, like I said, I can't say that enough. So um, with that, I will pass it on to Dino. He is our partner at Modern Times, and he'll speak more about our labor hiring efforts.
Thank you, Glenn. Good evening, everyone. I am joined here by my team member, Christian Ramirez Galindo. And we, as Jobs or Modern Times, are the jobs coordinator for this project. With this project, we are working on the project labor agreement where 40% needs to be local, 20% needs to be apprentices, and we are also employing 10% that have barriers. So what that means is as Glenn mentioned, we are focusing our efforts in providing more work for the local community. To date, as of data as of October 31st, the project has completed 14%, and off of which local targeted workers, we've employed 31.18, compared to the goal of 40%, quite impressive. Same thing with the apprentices. We have employed 14.40 of the total goal of 20%. And those that have barriers or what we call disadvantaged workers, we have 8.9, and the goal is 10% for this project. And to discuss the demographics of the community, I'm passing it on to Christian.
Thank you, Dino. I will give a quick update on the demographics of the workers over at the 105. Just to echo what is being said earlier, Flatiron Myers joint venture is committed to hiring local members of the community. So far, there's been 1,065 workers hired as of October 31st, 2025, 75 of which are African American, 6 are Asian, 659 are Hispanic, 3 are Native American, and finally, we've hired 27 female workers as well. So I will pass it back to Ron Macias for his closing remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that. Here you see our project information, where one wishes to reach the project regarding any inquiries and issues. You can contact us through those methods there, whether it's via phone, email, or project website. And again, as stated earlier, anyone can sign up to receive project emails regarding updates and new developments. Please go onto our website and subscribe to the project. So that essentially wraps up the project at this regarding our presentation at this time. So again, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. We'll continue to inform the community about this project as we will continue to host more of these community meetings on a regular basis to provide such updates of the project and certainly inform the community of any new developments. And we intend to have the next community meeting such as this in the early part of 2026 of next year. As mentioned, we will proceed to look forward to construction in the segments 2 and 3 areas as well in the somewhat near future, as you will start to hear more about the details regarding construction in those segments, again, in the somewhat near future. And again, thank you for joining us and being here with us to discuss the project with you. And we will move on to questions and answers at this time.
Yes, thank you. We're now at the Q&A portion. Again, please feel free to continue to submit any questions that you have via the Q&A icon on your screen. So we do have a couple questions already that have been submitted. First one from Catherine says, thank you for explaining this important project. Question, when express lane speeds drop below 45 miles per hour, does the pricing go up?
Yes, thank you for that question. For that particular question, I would like to turn it over to Philbert, who will be able to provide a complete answer regarding express lane operations in respect to pricing.
Yeah, thank you, Ron, and thanks for the question, Robert Wong, Metro Express Lanes. So we call our tolling is what we call dynamic pricing, which means when there's more cars, the price goes up in order to maintain speeds on the express lanes. So currently on the 10 and the 110, the max toll is $3.10 per mile. So as congestion or as more cars are using the express lanes, the toll price will keep going up until it gets to $3.10. But if you've driven on the 10 or the 110, sometimes you'll see the signs say HOV only mode. And so that means there's more cars. And in order to manage demand on the express lanes, only HOVs are allowed to use the express lanes. And so that's another thing that we do to try to maintain speeds at 45 miles an hour. First, it's through pricing up to $3.10. And if there's still a lot more cars in the express lanes, then the system will go into HOV only mode, which restricts the express lanes to HOV only. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Philbert. That does answer the question. Next question says, the prior sound wall had an open door for access, not locked. Will there be access doors in the new sound walls again, near Prairie Exit?
For new sound walls, they are typically access doors, and this is typically to allow for post-construction when a project is built to allow typically Caltrans workers to access the site to perform regular maintenance, which is routinely done along the freeway. So typically there are sound walls, access doors along sound walls throughout the corridor, and they typically are locked. Yes, they should be locked. And maintenance workers will open up the access doors in order to perform maintenance routinely along the freeway.
Thank you, Ron. And final question that I see is there a plan to update or clean the Prairie Exit?
The Prairie Exit, I don't believe that is part of the scope of this project with respect to that off-ramp. So I think that actual off-ramp is outside of the purview of the scope. But if you're talking, when you say clean up, I imagine you mean maintenance with respect to trimming and caring and taking care of the landscaping. Those efforts are addressed by Caltrans as they are the owner of the freeway. So post-construction, they will routinely perform maintenance as far as and cleanup along the corridor. And that it would include the prairie ramps too, but if it's within Caltrans right of way. But I believe our project does not have any improvements with respect to reconstruction of the prairie off-ramp.
Thank you, Ron. That is the last question that I see submitted through the Q&A function. So I'm handing it back to you.
All right. Are there any further questions that the community has? You have the opportunity to ask us questions. The project team is here. We're available. Any questions? Well, seeing that they are none, I would, I don't believe they are. Again, I would like to just state we will have another meeting in the near future in early 2026 as part of our new meeting. And again, you are likely to hear of some updates of construction or being planned, some construction timelines for the remaining segments 2 and 3 areas. Again, segment 2, just to the east of the ongoing construction, roughly around Central Avenue to the 710 freeway, and also segment 3 between the 710 freeway to the eastern terminus as to the Baker Road near the I-605. We intend to start construction in those areas in the early part of next year.
Hey, Ron, we have one more question that came in.
Mhm.
It says, what about preventing homeless encampments on the sound walls or sloped wall areas?
Yes, our project regularly clears encampments during the construction phase uh, in order to safely perform the work activities. But when the project is not under construction, when construction is complete, um, and the project is, and not rather the project, but the corridor is being managed by Caltrans, there is a process for homeless encampment removals. You can contact Caltrans via a variety of ways, go on their website, log in the issue, call, send an email. They have a process where they will access the corridor and remove encampments along the corridor. And also, in addition, if there's a request for any maintenance, which is a cleanup of any sort, or any maintenance of existing landscaping, one can, after post-construction, you can contact and have Caltrans address these issues by contacting via a number of ways.
Thank you. That was the last one I saw.
Any more questions from the community? Again, we'd like to thank you for being here. Again, you have the opportunity with the project team here. And at this time, I think it would be appropriate to wrap up the meeting and say goodnight, and we will see you at the next meeting. Thank you for attending.